Right. So when you learn the time lesson and when you go through the several sections under that lesson, you will come across the section where you have to do conversions. Right? විනාඩි තප්පර කරන්නේ කොහොමද? තප්පර විනාඩි කරන්නේ කොහොමද? නේ? How we convert hours into minutes, minutes into hours. ඔන්න ඔයගේ section එකක් ඔයාලට අහු වෙනවා. So now I am going to tell you how to memorize those conversions using a very easy method. හරි? එතකොට මම මේ ඔයාලට කියලා දෙන්නේ ඒ conversions කරන විදිහ හරිම ලේසි විදිහකින් මතක තියාගන්න පුළුවන්. අන්න ඒ ක්‍රමය තමයි මම ඔයාලට මේ කියලා දෙන්නේ. Right. So we know 1 minute that is equal to what? When you talk about seconds, 60 seconds. නේ? විනාඩියක් කියලා කියන්නේ තප්පර 60යි. හරි. දැන් මෙහෙම හිතමු. Right? So this is one main thing that you need to keep in your mind. මේක අනිවාර්යෙන් මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. විනාඩියක් කියන්නේ තප්පර 60ක් කියන එක ඒ රිලේෂන්ෂිප් එක මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. Now imagine that you have been given 5 minutes. So you have to convert this into what? Seconds. විනාඩි 5 තප්පර කරන්න ඕන. Right. So how do we do this? The first thing you need to understand this. When we compare minutes and seconds, minutes that is the larger unit, seconds that is the smaller unit. Minutes කියලා කියන්නේ larger unit එක, seconds කියලා කියන්නේ smaller unit එක. හරිද? Always remember when we have to convert a larger unit into a smaller unit. හරිද මම ඒ කියව කතාව? හරිනේ? This is what? 5 minutes. What do we have to do? We have to convert that into what? Seconds. එතකොට minutes කියලා කියන්නේ ප්‍රමාණයෙන් විශාල unit එකනේ. හරි. Always remember when we have to convert a larger unit into a smaller unit. දැන් මේක හැටියට නම් this is minutes, this is seconds. Larger unit into a smaller unit. What do we have to do? We have to multiply. We have to multiply. ඔච්චරයි මතක තියාගන්න තියෙන්නේ. හැබැයි larger unit into a smaller unit. දැන් මෙතන හැටියට නම් minutes into seconds. What do we have to do? Multiply. ඔන්න දැන් වැඩෙන් භාගයක් හරි. So we know what to do. Multiply. So what is the next question? Multiply by what amount? එතනට තමයි මෙන්න මේක ඕන වෙන්නේ. We know 1 minute that is equal to what? 60 seconds. 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. එහෙනම් අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? In this case, we have to multiply by what amount? 60. So how do we convert 5 minutes into seconds? Take 5 and multiply that by 60. 5 times 60, we know that is 300, but this is what? Hari, අපි ආපහු බලමු. So we have been given to convert 5 minutes into seconds. Right? So what is the first thing that we need to do? We need to figure out which one is the larger one. Or what do we have to do? So here we have to convert 5 minutes into seconds. So when we compare these two means minutes and seconds, we know minutes that is the larger unit. So whenever we convert a larger unit into a smaller unit, we have to multiply. Multiply by what amount? That amount we can find it from this relationship. We know 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So here using this 60, we multiply 5. So 5 into 60, that is 300 seconds. එතකොට මෙන්න මේක තමයි ඔයාලා අනිවාර්යෙන් මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. Larger unit into a smaller unit, what do we have to do? Multiply. Then by what amount? For that we need the relationship. මේ දෙන්න අතර relationship එක දැනගන්න ඕන. Right. So now we will take another question. Okay. Let's take 8 minutes and convert this into what? Seconds. So we have to convert minutes into seconds. So we have two units. One is minutes and the other one is seconds. So what is the first thing that we need to realize? What do we have to do? We have to convert minutes into seconds. So between these two units, we know minutes, that is the larger unit. Larger unit into a small unit, and මොකද කරන්න ඕන? Multiplication. By what amount? ඒකට relationship එක ලියා ගන්න ඕන. හැම වෙලාවෙම මේ units අතර relationship එක පැත්තකින් කොච්චර දන්නව වුණත් ලියා ගන්න. Right? So we know 1 minute that is equal to what? 60 seconds. හරි? එහෙනම් what do we have to do? Take 8, multiply that by what? 60. So 8 into 60, that is what? 8 times 0, that is 0. 8 times 6, that is 48. Altogether we get what? 480 seconds. 480 seconds. Right. So that is how to convert minutes into seconds. Now so now we have been given 300 seconds. So we have to convert this amount into what? Minutes. Seconds into minutes. හරි. දැන් අපි දන්න දේ apply කරලා බලමු. When we compare seconds and minutes, we know seconds, that is the smaller unit. Minutes, that is the larger unit. So what do we have to do? We have to convert seconds into what? Into a much larger unit. Ne? So here, seconds, that is the smaller unit. Minutes, that is the larger unit. Right? Smaller unit into a larger unit. Smaller unit into a larger unit. So what do? We divide. Whenever we have to convert a smaller unit into a larger unit, what do? We divide. Then කරන දේ දන්නවා. What do we have to do? We have to divide. By what amount do we divide? හරි. අන්න ඒකට තමයි අපේ relationship එක ඕන වෙන්නේ. Right. So we know, just as before, 1 minute, that is equal to what? 60 seconds. So we know what to do, which is divide. Divide by what amount? 60. Divide by 60. Right? Divide by 60. Then shall we do the calculation? Right. So 300, we have to divide this by what? 60. Right? So here we can cancel out the zeros. 6 times 1, 6 times 5. Right? So we get 5 as the answer, but this is what? This is minutes. So that is the way how we convert seconds into minutes. Seconds into minutes. Now we will go through another question. So let's take 360 seconds and we have to convert this into what? Minutes. So here what do we have to do? We have to convert seconds into minutes. And we know when we compare these two units, seconds, that is the smaller unit, minutes, that is the larger unit. And මොකද්ද මේ අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ? Smaller unit into a larger unit. Smaller unit into a larger unit. එහෙනම් මොකද්ද අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ? We have to divide. Right. එහෙනම් අපි relationship එක ලියන්නමු. So we know 1 minute, that is equal to what? 60 seconds. 1 minute, that is equal to 60 seconds. හරි. දැන් අපි කරන්න ඕන දේ දන්නවා. We have to divide. Divide by what amount? 60. So we take 360 and divide it by 60. So we can cancel out these two zeros. 6 times 1, 6 times 6. So here we get what? 6 minutes. Right. So now we will take a look at how to convert 150 seconds. How to convert 150 seconds into minutes. Right? So seconds into minutes. So we have to write the relationship between these two. We know 1 minute, that is equal to what? 60 seconds. හරිද? එතකොට මෙතන මොකක්ද අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ? Seconds into minutes. නේ? Seconds into minutes. Second into minutes. Right. මම මේ short form එක ලියුවේ. Right. So we know when we compare these two units, seconds, that is the smaller unit, minutes, that is the larger unit. So what do we have to do? Convert a smaller unit into a larger unit. Then අපි ටක් ගාලා වැඩේ දන්නවා. Smaller unit into a larger unit now, what do we have to do? We have to divide. Divide by what amount? 60. So in this division, I will use what? The long division method. Right? So essentially we have to divide 150 by 60. Right? So I will take 150 as the dividend and 60 as the divisor. So how many 60s are there for 1? No, nothing. How many 60s are there for 15? Nothing. Right? How many 60s are there for 150? Let's check it. We know 60 times 1, that is 60. 60 times 2, that is 120. 60 times 3, that is 180. So we can go up to 60 times 2. So we write 2 above the 0. So 60 times 2, that is what? 120. Now what do we have to do? We have to subtract 120 from 150. So we get 30. So what is this amount? How do we get the answer? So here we get 2 as the quotient and 30 as the remainder. So what does that mean? These are minutes. So these are seconds. So when we convert 150 seconds into minutes, what do we get? We get 2 minutes and 30 seconds as the answer. 2 minutes and 30 seconds as the answer. So now we will go through the short method again. So let's take 2 units, right? So we will take minutes and seconds. Hari, api දැන් කතා කරපු දෙකමනේ. Right. So imagine that we have to convert minutes into seconds. මම short form එක ලිව්වේ. So when we compare these two units, minutes, that is the larger unit, seconds, that is the smaller unit. Right? So whenever we have to convert a larger unit into a smaller unit, what do we have to do? We have to multiply. The thing that we need to do is multiply, but by what amount? For that we need the relationship. We know 1 minute, that is equal to what? 60 seconds. 1 minute, that is equal to 60 seconds. So what do we have to do? We have to multiply the given minute amount by what? 60. Then we can get the given minute amount in what? Seconds. Right. And the other way around. Imagine that we have been given to convert some seconds into minutes. Right? Some seconds into minutes. So when we compare these two units, we know seconds, that is the smaller unit, minutes, that is the larger unit. So here what do we have to do? We have to convert seconds into minutes. Smaller unit into the larger unit. Larger unit into smaller unit now, we have to do the multiplication. Smaller unit into larger unit now, what do we have to do? We have to divide. Right? දැන් මේ දෙකම ඔයාලා මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ. මේ දෙකෙන් එකක් මතක තියාගන්න. right? අපි හිතමු මේක කාට හරි මේක ලේසින් නම් මතක තියාගන්න. හරි? large unit into small unit නම් multiplication. හරි. අපි ඒක මතක තියාගමු. මේක මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ. හරි? එතකොට අපි check කරලා බලන්න ඕන. large unit into small unit නම් we have to do the multiplication. මේක තමයි අපි දැන් මතක තියාගෙන ඉන්න එක. අපි මතක තියාගමු කියලා ගත්තේ මේක. එතකොට ඔයා ගාන හදන් යනකොට ඔයාට ආවේ convert a smaller unit into larger unit නම් එහෙනම් ඔයා ටක් ගාලා තේරුම් අරගෙන ගන්න ඕන අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ division එක කියලා. මේ දෙකම මතක තියාගන්න ඕනත් නෑ. එකක් මතක තියාගත්තා නම් ඇති. Right. So for here also we need this relationship. Right? So what do we have to do? We have to divide the given seconds by what amount? By 60. එතකොට why is this important? Right? මේක ළමයි මෙතනදිවත් මේ lesson එකට විතරක්වත් නෙමෙයි. Right? From grade 6 to 11, right? For any conversion between units, the basic thing is here. ඔයාලට මෙන්න මේ මං කිව්ව දේ හරියට ඔලුවට ගත්තා නම් මෙන්න මේ ටික විතරක් මතක තියාගත්තා නම් ආය කටපාඩමින් conversions මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඕන conversion එක මෙන්න මේ theory එක මතක තියාගෙන කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයාලට අමුතුවෙන් මතක තියාගන්න වෙන්නේ ඒ units අතර relationship එක. Right. So now we will use the same principle or same theory and apply it on conversions between hours and minutes. හරි. හිතන්න මෙහෙම. So imagine that you have been given 8 hours, right? So we have to convert 8 hours into what? Minutes. මෙහෙම දුන්නා කියලා හිතන්න, right? So what do we do? 8 hours into minutes. First of all, we know when we compare hours and minutes. When we compare hours and minutes, right? Hours, that is the larger unit. Minutes, that is the smaller unit. So here what do we have to do? Convert a larger unit into a smaller unit. Then what do we have to do? We have to multiply. We have to multiply. Then now we know what to do, right? We have to multiply. Then what is the next step? Multiply by what amount? ඒකට අපිට hours වලයි minutes වලයි relationship එක ලියා ගන්න ඕන. So we know 1 hour that is equal to what? 60 minutes. 1 hour that is equal to 60 minutes. එහෙනම් මොකද අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ? Take this amount which is given to us in hours. So that is 8 hours. So we have to multiply that by what? 60. Right? So 8 into 60, we know that is 480. But this is what? Minutes. 480 minutes. So now we will do the reverse. That means convert 720 minutes into what? Hours. Right. ඉස්සලාම දැන් අපි වැඩේ ලියාගෙන ඉමු. What do we have to do? We have to convert minutes into hours. Minutes into hours. So when we compare these two units, we know minutes, that is the smaller unit, hours, that is the larger unit. So we have to convert a smaller unit into a larger unit. And then මතකට එන්න ඕන, what do we have to do? We have to divide. We know what do we have to do, which is divide. So what is the next step? Divide by what amount? Just as before, we know 1 hour that is equal to what? 60 minutes. පැයක් කියලා කියන්නේ විනාඩි 60යි. එහෙනම් කීයෙන් අපි බෙදන්නේ? 60. Right? So we take 720 and divide it by 60. So we know we can cancel out these zeros. 6 times 1, 6 times 4 here, 12. කාටරි මෙතන මේ division එක පොඩ්ඩක් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ වගේ නම් this is the division using what? The shorter method, or else we can use the long division. So we can use 720 and divide it by what? 60, right? So how many 60s are there in 7? None. How many 60s are there in 72? We can go up to 1, right? Because we know 60 times 1, that is 60. 60 times 2, that is 120. So here for 72, when we consider how many 60s are there in 72, we can go up to 1, right? So we should write the 1 just top of what? 2. 2 in the sense of 720, right? මේ දෙකට උඩින් තමයි මේ එක කියන එක ලියන්න ඕන. මේ ලියන හැම ඉලක්කමක තේරුමක් තියෙනවා, right? So 60 times 1, we know that is 60, right? So 72 minus 60. So 2 minus 0, that is 2. 7 minus 6, that is 1. Now we will get this 0. How many 60s are there in 120? Here, 2. So we write 2 on top of 0. 60 times 2, we know that is 120. 120 minus 120, we get a 0. So here, what is the answer? 12. So that means what? When we convert 720 minutes into hours, that will be what? 12 hours. ඔයාලා unit එකත් එක්කම තමයි උත්තරේ දාගන්න ඕනේ. Right. Right. Now we will take a look at how to convert between days and hours. Days and hours. That means how to convert days into hours and also hours into days. Right? So imagine that we have been given convert 4 days into hours. Right? So this is a question that we have been given. Imagine something like that, right? So what do we have to do? We have to convert days into hours. Days into hours. So when we compare these two units, right? Days is also a measurement of time, no? Right? Okay, so days into hours. So we know days, that is the large unit, and hours, that is the smaller unit. So what do we have to do? We have to convert a large unit into a small unit. That means what? Large unit into a small unit. Now you know, right? What do we have to do? We have to multiply. We know what to do by what amount. For that we need the relationship between days and hours, right? So we know 1 day, that is equal to what? 24 hours. 1 day is equal to 24 hours. දවසක් කියන්නේ පැය 24ක්. Right. So here what do we have to do? We have to multiply 24 by 4. Multiply 24 by 4. Right? So 4 times 4, we know that's a 6. So we have to carry the 1. 4 times 2, that is 8. Add the 1, it becomes 96. So what is this 96? This is hours, huh? Hours. Right, so this is the answer, 96 hours. Right, so now let's imagine we have been given to convert 144 hours into what? Days. So what do we have to do here? Convert hours into days. පැය දින කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. Right? So when we compare these two units, we know hours, that is the small unit, days, that is the large unit. So we have to convert a small unit into a large unit. Then what do we have to do? Now you know what do we have to do? We have to divide. Right? By what amount? For that we need the relationship. So we know 1 day, that is equal to what? 24 hours. Right? So from what amount do we divide 144? By 24. Right. So we will do the division using the long form of division. So we will take 144 and divide it by what? 24. Right. So we know 24 times 1, that is 24. 24 times 2, that is 48. Right. Okay. And 24 times 3, we know that is 72, right? Okay, so we will do the division. How many 24s are there in 1? None. So now we will go to 14. How many 24s are there in 14? Still none. 144. How many 24s are there in 144? Right, so we will check. So 24 into 4. So 4 times 4, that is 6. 4 times 2, that is 8. At the 1, it becomes 9. 24 times 5, that will be what? 120, no? Right. So we will go one more. That means we will take 24 into 6. Right? So 6 times 4, that is 24. 6 times 2, that is 12. So add the 2, this becomes what? 144. So 24 times 6, that is what? 144. So what do? We write 6 above the 4 of 144, that is the large digit, right? So 24 times 6, that is what? 144. So we subtract 144 from 144, then we will get what? 0. So here what is the answer? 6. 6 means here, that is days. So how many days? The answer should be 6 days. The answer is 6 days. Right? So here the answer should be what? 6 days. Right. Right. So now we will convert 37 hours. 37 hours into what? Days. Right? So just as before, what do we have to do? We have to check what do we have to do actually. Right? So we have to convert hours into days. That means what? When we compare these two units, we know hours, that is the smaller unit, and days, that is the larger unit. Right? So we have to convert a smaller unit into a larger unit. Right? Then what do we have to do? Definitely we have to divide. Divide by what amount? Now you know, divide by 24. Right? We will take 37 and divide it by 24. How many 24s are there in 3? None. So altogether 37. How many 24s are there in 37? 1. 24 times 1, that is 24. Then we have to subtract 24 from 37. So 7 minus 4, that's a 3. 3 minus 2, that's a 1. So what are we are trying to do here? We are trying to convert hours into days. So what is this one mean? That is 1 day. So this is the remainder, which is 13. What is that? Hours. Hours. Okay. So the answer is what? 1 day and 13 hours. So that will be the answer. එතකොට අපිට හැම වෙලාවෙම බලන්න තියෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? What do we have to do? So in any case we have to do two things. Either we have to convert a larger unit into a smaller unit. එහෙම නැත්නම් a smaller unit into a larger unit. මෙන්න මේ දෙක තමයි කොහෙන් ගියත් අපිට කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. Right? So to convert a large unit into a small unit, we have to multiply. To convert a small unit into a large unit, we have to divide. මෙන්න මේ දෙක මතක තියාගෙන units වල relationship එක මතක තියාගත්තා නම් ඔයාලට ටග් දාලා conversion එක කරගන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්තම් conversion එකෙන් conversion එකට හැම දෙයක්ම ඔයාලට මතක තියාගන්න වෙනවා. Right? Okay. So actually then මම අපේ lesson එකේ theory part එක cover කළා නෙමෙයි මෙතන කරේ, right? මම මේ concept එක අරගෙන, ඒ කියන්නේ time lesson එකේ relationship between unit කියන subsection එකේ තියෙන content එක අරගෙන මේ concept එක මම explain කරපු එක තමයි කරේ. හරි? How to remember the conversions. Right. So that is it for the video. Right. Thank you.